All right, guys, welcome to your Unit 3 Quiz 1 study guide help video. We'll be working on the even problems, so let's begin. For absolute value problems, the first thing you want to do is get rid of the numbers that are outside the absolute value bars. So I'm going to start by adding 5. And then I'm going to divide by 9. Once you got the absolute value bars by itself, you can go ahead and set that inside portion equal to a negative version of the number on the right and a positive version of the number on the right. And since I don't need to solve for k anymore because k is already by itself, we have our two answers there. Let's go ahead and take a look at yet another problem. Number 4. So once again, the first step is to get rid of the numbers outside the bars, but there are no numbers outside the bars. And so we begin then by splitting. So you set the part that's inside the bars equal to a negative version of the number on the right. And then you set the part that's inside the bars equal to a positive version of the number that's on the right. Now in this case, we do have some solving to do. I've got to subtract 7. And so I end up with negative 8 as one of my answers. And negative 6 as my other answer. And there you have it. Let's take a look at the next one. Once again, you want to start by getting rid of those numbers outside the bars. So step 1 is to subtract 4 on both sides. Step 2 is to divide that 3 out of there. Step 4 is to rewrite that as two equations. Now that I got the absolute value by itself, we write two equations. Now we need to solve both of those. So I'm going to do 1 minus 6x equals negative 31. Step 1 is to subtract 1. Step 2 is to divide. The negatives cancel, and we can also reduce to get 16 over 3. So there's one of my solutions. That was this one. Now we'll do this one. 1 minus 6x is equal to a positive 31. Subtract 1. Divide by a negative 6. And we get negative 5 as our second solution on that problem. Let's go ahead and take a look at number 8. Number 8 is asking us to graph this thing. So when you're trying to graph an absolute value function, this number here is the x part. You got to remember to do the opposite sign. So since that's a negative 3, I'm actually going to make it a positive 3. And this part is the y part, and those two things put together make up the vertex of your parabola. Or not your parabola, I'm sorry, your absolute value function. So I'm going to graph that point, right 3 down 2. Now this number here in the front is my slope. It's negative 3. Now I'm going to think of that as negative 3 over 1. Now the negative 3 means I'm going to be going down. And with absolute value functions, you go both ways. You go to the left and you go to the right. So starting from my vertex, I'm going to go down 3. I'm going to go left 1 and put a dot. And I'm going to go right 1 and put a dot. And then we connect those 3 dots with our V shape. And that is our absolute value function. All right. Now sometimes you will have this situation when you have a number here and a number here. You're going to need to factor the b out. which means you're going to divide it out. So I'm going to put my -3 here, and then I'm going to divide both of these things by -3. So if I divide this by -3, I'm just left with x. If I divide this by -3, I'm left with positive 4/3. Okay. The next thing that we do is we're going to separate the -3 from the rest of the absolute value problem. We're going to take the absolute value of that -3, which makes it become positive, by the way. And then we're going to multiply those together to get -6. Once you've done all that, the problem is like what we learned last time on the last problem we just completed. We're going to take this number and its opposite sign, and that gives us the x part of our vertex. We're going to take this number, and that's going to give us the y part of our vertex. Now, graphing fractions is a little bit of a pain in the butt, but if you think about this and just change it to a decimal, just get your calculator out and divide the top number by the bottom. It's actually -1.3 and just kind of keeps going. So basically it's -1 plus a little bit more. So that's what we'll be graphing there. So my vertex, I'm going to go -1 and a little bit more. And I'm going to go up 2. So up 2, left 1, and a little bit more for the 1/3 there. And there's my vertex. Okay, now we're ready for our slope. My slope is -6/1. That means I'm going down since it's negative, and we're going to go left and right 1. So down 6, left 1, right 1. And I'm just estimating where those are at. It doesn't have to be very precise. And there we go. So my V shape would look something like that. Now on your guys' quiz, I made sure that when you take this number out, you don't get a fraction here, just to avoid that kind of confusion, but I figured we'd put it on the study guide at least. All right, for the next set, you're going to want to have out your notes on transformations. There's quite a bit of transformations we've learned about. So let's go ahead and begin here. So first of all, this number here is my A value. So A is equal to -2. Now when A is negative, that causes your graph to flip upside down, or in other words, reflect across the x-axis. Another thing is the 2. Since the absolute value of 2 is greater than 1, that means we're going to have a vertical expansion, or stretch, if you will. And so by looking at those two things, we have option B is our answer. And I accidentally did number 11 instead of 12, so you guys can do the same if you want to, I don't mind. But I'll go ahead and skip ahead here to number 13. I'm going to do 14. All right. On this one, that negative is a transformation. That 1/3 is a transformation. And this +2 is a transformation. So first of all, what is it that this -1/2 here accomplishes? Well, that's an A value. When your A is negative, that causes you to reflect across the x-axis. It flips it upside down again. What does this do? Well, in that case, that's my A value again. Since the absolute value of 1/3 is less than 1, that is a vertical compression. Next, we have this number here. And whenever you're adding a number inside the parentheses, that is a translation to the left. Okay, so we're looking for those three things: a reflection across the x-axis, a vertical compression, and a translation to the left. And that looks like option C to me. Okay, so on this one, you want to ask yourself, what would we have to do to the blue line to get the green line? Okay. Well, this blue line here looks like it's the same size as the green line. For instance, it goes over 1, up 1. This one still goes over 1, up 1 to get from one point to the other. So it doesn't look like it's been stretched at all to me. But it does look like it got shifted over 2 spaces and up 1 space. So in other words, let me demonstrate what I'm talking about here. I'm going to trace this blue line with a blue line. And then I'm going to demonstrate what I would have to do to get that blue line to look like the green line. I would have to take it and slide it over 2 spaces and then up 1 space, and after that they match pretty good. Okay, so what did I do again? I slid it to the right, and I slid it up. So that's a translation to the right and a translation up. Now, when you do a translation to the right, that means you are subtracting a number inside the parentheses. So it's either this one or this one now, because both of those have subtraction inside the parentheses. When you translate up, you're adding a number outside the parentheses, so that's going to be this guy. So my option is B there. Let's take a look at 18. All right, so what would I have to do to the blue line to get the green line? Well, once again, let me trace my blue line here. And I'm going to see what I would have to do to that thing in order to get it to look like the green line. Well, first of all, you'll notice that the green line looks like it's upside down. So one thing I would have to do is I'd have to flip it upside down if it'll let me. I don't think it's going to let me flip it upside down. Oh well, let me try to do it a different way. So if I flipped it upside down, it would look kind of like that. Not the best picture in the world. But after I flipped it upside down, that's still not quite enough. I would still need to be able to slide it over and up in order to get them to match. And it's not a perfect match because I didn't draw the line very well. But there it is. So it looks like I had to flip it upside down, and then I had to slide it to the right and up. So flipping it upside down means we're reflecting it across the x-axis. And that's when you have a negative outside. We also translated it to the right, and that's whenever you have a subtraction inside the parentheses. And we also translated it up, and that's when you have a plus outside the parentheses. So I'm looking for a negative in the front of f, a minus something on the inside, and a plus on the outside. So that to me looks like it would be option D. Negative on the outside, subtraction on the inside, plus on the outside. And that is that. So hopefully that was helpful, and we'll see you guys in class for your quiz. Have a good one.